All right, so hello, welcome to the 3D character design course for this term. My name is Qing Huang. I believe most of you already know me in a previous course. And so this is the continual course of based on the previous 3D course you've already taken. This one is more focused on the so-called organic modeling. The previous one is a hard surface modeling, which means the surface, the object can be animated, but the surface is not distorted. But this one is particularly to create a humanoid kind of character that which means it demands a lot more technical constraints and for the purpose of mainly for animation. And thus you have more sort of a distort of the surface. Thus you have to have better quality of the surface topology, distribution of the edge and form, edge and faces. And to just give you a little bit overview of this course, the unit learning outcome is applying principles of design to 3D character creation and apply an understanding of human anatomy to 3D character creation. So you have to bring a lot of believability from the human form. So you have to embed it with more human form, human characteristics, and produce as 3D character models suitable for real-time rendering using industrial standard software. So the keyword is real-time rendering, and the software I'm going to use is still Maya, which is the industrial standard. And produce character texture maps suitable for real-time rendering and using industrial standard software. This part you should be not by now very familiar because you have been through that course. Technically, I think this course doesn't have much of novelty, and it's pretty much the same, repeating the same process of you've already learned from the previous one, judged by your works last time in the course last term. I think most of you have grasped that quite well. To produce complex material suitable for real-time rendering as well. So the surface quality is also emphasized. So that's the outcome of you are expecting. So the cost structure is pretty much the same as previous. By now you should know my teaching style. I provide you weekly lecture and also curating or prescribing some of the tutorials from online and also from myself. And then you dedicate the whole session, the 2-hour session, watching my lecture and then do the tutorials afterwards. And by the time of week 7, there's no more lecture, and you are concentrate on finish up your second final assignment. And so that's the drill you're already familiar with. So again, the same, you have 2 assessment. When the first one weight 40%, the second one weight 60%. Both are practical assessment, which means you have invest lots more time and labor to actually creating practical product, which is in this case a 3D character asset. All right. And so just give a bit of an overview of the assignment. The first one is the 3D character model and self-assessment. This assessment requires you to create a 3D character model and complete a written review of that work process. And the 3D model and the document must adhere to the technical specifications and the submission requirements specified in the assessment criteria. The technical constraint is it must be humanoid. All right, I don't want a faceless robot. There are, sorry, I've got one more student. All right, there are students in the previous run just give me a kind of blank, sort of like somewhat like stormtroopers or that sort of. I think in this course, you should learn how to create a more detailed humanoid sort of character with facial features. So that challenge yourself of that task. Once you have been through that, you probably can create anything later in your career if you choose the career path of that. And so it must be humanoid, and the total polygon limit is total polygon limit is 10K. And in this first assessment, I don't require you to do the UV yet. You just concentrate on sculpting, concentrate on conceive a very good form and shape with good topology, which means evenly distributed edges and faces, no mini folds, no glitches or faults. All right, and the character maybe have accessories like a weapon or armor, and those could be a separate object, and so it's not included in the poly count. So it can up to 5K. So altogether maybe 15K. So that's the technical constraint. Concept art model sheet must be submitted. Maybe as part of your documents, as in your previous course, some of you are attached the appendix within your written document, which is the appropriate form of that, or if you want to submit separately. And the model has to be exported and submit as a single 3D model format, perhaps OBJ on FBX. And also you need to submit the project file, which in a zip file, and so that I can see your project structure, I can see you can manage, organize your project properly. So that's the technical constraint. And the first assessment criteria is that detail listed there. Yeah, the first part is pretty much given, right? As long as you have those components of your assessment, you probably will be given the points automatically. And the next session, application of principle design, the course bears the name design, which means you have to be artistic. And so you'll be judged by the design, by the process, and by your actual quality of your design. So later you need to apply a lot of principles to the design process. And the model sheet has a turnaround, lineup, character drawings, front, back, side, or quarter view. And the concept art should be fully colored version of a character with a proper pose, iconic pose of your imagination. And the quality of the concept art model sheet will be judged by its silhouette, by its color, by details and visual appeal and style. And the quality of the character design will be judged by its shape and form, how much anatomy it reflects, and the proportion and the suitability and the believability. That's the applied principle of design. And the next stage is the actual judge of your quality, the outcome of your digital sculpting, whether the model is clean or without any non-manifold geometries, face count matches, or preferably all quartz, because quartz distorted better in rendering in later animation. So that's the industry requires all quartz. That's the but maybe sometimes the inevitable, you have some triangles. That's fine, as long as you hide them up in the not prestigious places on your model. And 10K quality limits, 5K quality limits for the accessories and props. And the topology should be clean, as I said before. It has to be evenly distributed, tidy, and smooth edge flow, smooth, evenly distributed. All right. So after that, you have to apply application of understanding human anatomy and aesthetics, because you're creating humanoids. As an artist, we have to see the quality of how much you reflect the human characteristics, and that's the quality of human side of that. And so the anatomy, proportion, any details, and also you have to design his its dress code. You have to design its clothes, accessories, props. That's a part of design as well, and whether it's consistent, suitable, or detailed. All right. So there are other criteria like a character is likeness to the original design. So it will be judged by your concept art to see how much you transform that into the actual 3D. And if you have any extra efforts and innovations applied to that, and believe me, I can see that if you put an extra efforts and X factors into the design, into the characters. And of course, the written communication should reflect and discuss the whole process, and also with the reference. You can't have your design concept out of blue. You probably have under a lot of inspiration and influence from online for any your previous experience of the gaming or animation or watching. You might want to address that. You might want to reference them, and also when you do the design, you need to do a lot of research and collection. Reference them as well, so that we can see your originality roots from. All right, that's the first assessment. The second one is fully textured. The only difference is fully textured, and it be presented on the Sketchfab. So it's fully textured post character. It will be put onto the Sketchfab online rendering platform. And the character must adhere to the technical specification as well, some requirements as well. So that's the constraint is 10K for the character, 5K for the limit, and 2K for the, which means 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels, more than 2000 pixels texture resolution. Those will be painted. It must have some kind of painted quality, perhaps, maybe, and at least one animated elements, so like idle animation or jump or punch, something like that, and minimum texture map requirements, such as color, specular, normal map, or ambient occlusion, all that sort of map. And the more you incorporate into this, the better. So it makes the surface quality more rich. So that's the constraint. So that's the selection criteria as previous. Before, as long as you have all the components, you're probably given all the marks, and you'll be judged by the texture, more emphasis on quite many points for that one. So whether your UV layout is clean, is logic, is actually evenly distributed on the texture space, whether all the texture is of 2K, and depending on, so at least you should have 3 maps that like color, usually the must, and that maybe you want to have a bit of a specular, a bit of a normal texture map or ambient occlusion, and the more the better. At least you should have 3 of that, and the texture outcome. So in the end, you'll be judged by the aesthetic value of the outcome, whether technically it's tidy and aesthetically it's appeal, it's looking good. Where in the motion picture sort of visual sort of industry, so looking good is quite important to beautify it. And whether you're eventually you can utilize the Sketchfab material efficiently, and again, aesthetic, technical, and suitability, and whether you can apply proper post-processing of provided by the Sketchfab to further kind of spiced up the outcome, the finishing, the lighting, the presentation of a whole character, all right? And others like the fidelity of your design, whether the original design and the final outcome matches. And you have to have, we need to learn a little bit rigging, quick rigging to rig either within Maya or outside Maya, some other third-party online free sort of packages such as Mixama. Later you will know that, and it will automatically apply some rigging onto your character so that it will be animatable. All right. So the So whether the chosen animation is appropriate for your character and without any glitches, without any obvious faults. And believe me, if you put any extra efforts, extra X factors, and you will be awarded by that. And if I see it, that I can see that. And in the end, the written component to reflect and discuss the whole process and with all your references. All right, that's that. And I want to give you a list of online Sketchfab examples, and I think that's the goal. That's the aim. I'm expecting you to match that quality. And it's just watching that. So depending on the style you're choosing. So as you can see, lots of them have different styles. Some are anime style, some are really realistic styles, and some are lots of gaming sort of quality. All right, okay. So as you can see, each character has its own unique proportion, unique texture, and some are very dramatic. And you can see the quality of the textures, and you have all sorts of metalness, roughness, normal map, ambient occlusion. Some even have emission, so which select the eye can emit lights, all that. All right. And some are very realistic, as you can see, very rich in terms of accessories, and it's quite realistic and quite detailed in terms of surface quality, the richness of the surface. All right. So that's the complexity of the texture map, as you can see. Metalness, roughness, normal map, ambient occlusion, opacity, emission, all that. So even the eye has a lot of emission. The final rendering of that character is quite rich. Some are very stylistic. This is the anime sort of style with outlines, and looks quite unique. So even with realistic surface quality, but the character is quite anime styles. So you can combine, the combination is endless. It's only limited by your own imagination. So that's the rigging. So, and the texture part of that, as you can see, each of these examples has a lots of rich maps applied to the surface. All right, so that's that. So as you can see, from drawing board to the 3D, there's a huge gap in between. And so your job is to fill in the gap. So that's a lot to contribute into the process. And so it relies on your knowledge of human forms, human anatomy, and knowledge of lots of technical issues, and the digital sculpting, the shapes and forms. The career as a 3D artist, you have to have a keen eye on shapes and forms, colors, as well as timing, right? Animation, if you later go to animation, some of you might look at the other course, animation, 3D character animation. You also need to cultivate your sense of timing as well. So it's a very challenging process. The typical workflow is like this, just as the previous one. You're starting from drawing board, flat, and the 2D, and then it folds into two main pathway. We are going to take the hard way, which is from scratch, maybe from primitive and the single polygon stuff from now that, and to develop the whole shape and forms. There's other form, other pathway, which is sculpting first, using the professional digital clay software package such as ZBrush. You might heard of that. And then once you come up with organic, sort of very detailed shape and forms, and then you start to using the special tool such as Quadro in Maya, and to gradually to convert the detailed version into a polygonal version of that. And but we took the hard. Both pathways equally complicated. You still need to do a lot of detailed matching the edge, the vertices, points. So why bother? So I think we took the hard way, which is start from scratch first, and then once you get through that, you can go to that path of the more organic. So some of the professional artists prefer that way because they want to have a sort of loosened sort of stage of imagination or imagining loosened sculpting of detailed of more rich forms before they actually get down to the technicality of converting to polygonal. And then you have once you have model, you have UV, organize the UV layout, and then texturize it if necessary. Bake the texture. You know that part already. You can convert texture into baking into all the lighting, all that baking into particular specific texture maps, and then you rig your character, and then you animate it. And once all that done, you have to put on to special platforms, maybe Unity, maybe Unreal Engine, or maybe Sketchfab in our case, to further light it up and put it into a sort of lighting environment and shaded them accordingly. And in the end, produce, maybe apply some post-processing special effects on that. And then in the end, it's either produce a sequential image for animations or direct digital assets, 3D assets for later gaming development. Maybe some of you can use that for your later courses, such as game design and game development as your part of your 3D project assets. All right, so that's just give you an example of that. This is the example I can find from ZBrush to Maya workflow. So you, as I said, you can have very detailed organic sort of sculpture. Is that this sort of sculpting is quite dense, easily over several millions, or if not 10 or 20 sorts of millions, or that. And then, but once you get all the organic details, and then you have started the process of using the Coral Draw within Maya to meticulously match the shapes, starting from a single quad and starting to match the shapes. It's still very tedious. It's still very kind of tedious, meticulous process. But some of the professionals prefer that way. And if you can do, you can explore by yourself. But we start, since we have to go to that stage as well. So we do the hard way. We're starting from a single maybe primitive geometry shapes and gradually fleshed out more details. So, but for your information, that's another pathway of doing this. Right? So, which is also very some artists prefer that this way. All right. So the process is pretty much illustrated by this diagram. So like starting from drawing board, flat design, concept art, you start to blocking out with primitives, blocking out the shapes and forms with geometrical shapes, and then you added on top of that more anatomic details to apply to some details of human forms, make it more believable. Once you have a naked form, very anatomically correct naked form, then you can dress them up by creating more accessories and added more features like hairs, the hat or dress, and then texturize it into a fully developed 3D character. All right, so where do you start? Where do you start? So that's the whole process technically. technicality of that. So where do you start? I introduced this lynda.com course, which is a successful illustrators, female illustrator in America, Mary Jane Begin. Uh, uh, her lecture is this course. The whole course is talking about her approach of character design in an hour or something. I think it's worthwhile to watch, and because a female illustrator has very meticulous way approach of how she visualize and starting from scratch visualize the character, and just maybe watch a little bit of that, and just one session. I think it's quite worthwhile. Let me just bring the. Where's it? Oh, not this one. Sorry. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, so just watch a little bit part of that because it's quite. I think it's quite insightful of her approach, which is some of them are quite.
We can't hear the audio.
Sorry.
We can't hear the audio from the video.
Can I say audio? Okay, let me just check my setting.
Sorry.
No worries. Thank you for that. And how do I share? Oh, I can't find the button to share the sound. Oh, why?
I'm not positive, but you may need to reshare your screen. And then at the start of the start of the share option, I
Okay.
I think it has the audio setting there. I could be wrong, but it's been a while.
It used to be just one button. I used to do that, but it changed its interface. I can't actually find that button. Share
Or is
the.
it at the bottom? Oh no, I don't know.
It's very weird. I can't find the button to share the sound. It's very weird. Sorry, it's a glitch. I don't know how to fix it. Mm.
I just looked it up just to double check, and it does look like in the share screen window, when you select the screen or application you want to share, there's a checkbox that you need to check
Oh
off.
yeah. Check the check. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and it should say
I got
share
it.
sound.
Yeah. Okay. Share sound. All right. Okay. So thank you for that, and let's just.
Pennsylvania.
Can you hear that?
The
Yep,
first thing that
there we go.
Good. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So let's start from first.
Deconstructing the visual information that a character design has to offer will help you to know if you're on the mark with your own designs. Let's start with Carlos Grangel's lineup for Hotel Transylvania. The first thing that we see is the overall silhouette or shape of the character as a first impression of the personality he's depicting. Notice how different the silhouette of Dracula from either the Mummy or Frank. It's pretty clear they play very different roles based on their distinctive shapes. Let's now look at Carter Goodrich's take on the Frankenstein monster. The shape of the large body, contrasting the tiny head, instantly identifies him as perhaps more brawn than brain. And though we can't see his face, We immediately feel his humanity in his all too familiar act of scratching his bottom. Carter uses shape here to immediately identify some aspects of the personality and humanize him with humor. In this example of the character Po from Kung Fu Panda, Nico Marley focuses on a sense of movement in the body gesture. His simple narrative of Po eating helps to identify him as perhaps a bit of a glutton. His rounded pear shape and overly exuberant gestures let us know that he's a harmless and humorous creature. The sketches of Tough Nut from How to Train Your Dragon utilize facial expression and proportion to tell us he is indeed a tough nut. The close-knit brow, large space between nose and mouth, hunched shoulders, expressive horned helmet, and scrawny body all suggest that he's an ineffective bully. In Nick Cole's character designs for Jellybots, he uses color and exaggerated shapes to symbolize personality traits. A palette of cool, soft colors, a long vertical shape, and a smiling expression, suggesting a wise and kindly fellow, defines the character of Candyman. By contrast, Rhino's red palette, large brow, blocky shape, lack of eyes, and lone tooth suggest a character that is not only dim-witted, but strong and full of rage. Leslie Pattigan's 3D work explores shapes with dimension, as in this translation of The Homeless Boy. She uses the shape of the hair, the draping of clothes, and the long silhouette, along with the inevitable shadows they cast on the form in 3D, to exaggerate the boy's expression and immediate impression. Another tool that helps to define a character's personality for the instant read is context. When looking at Bob Alley's Paddington Bear, his reaction to the people around him give us an insight into his emotional state. As a fellow book illustrator, I too use context and contrasted personalities to capture an impression of the character's emotional state, as here in this scene from Willow Buds. You can see that I've exaggerated Toad and Badger's emotional state and emphasized the facial expression as they react to each other. In each of these examples I've provided, I've touched on some of the key elements we'll explore to understand good character design: shape, facial expression, body gesture, movement, color, proportion, context, and contrast. As we move through the course, we'll dive deeper into each of these elements to tease out the secret sauce that makes these designs and yours fabulous.
All right, so just going back to my slides. Where is it? Sorry, yeah. So I summarized a little bit from her lecture, and I think it's quite insightful and precise. And for all the ultimate purpose of character design, your task is to capture the heart and soul of the character. You have to have reach the spiritual level of your characters. All right. So to do that, usually you need to talk to your writers, directors, and producers. In your case, you are talking to yourself. It's your design. It's your character. And to understand the motivation and the purpose of your character in the story. So you got to have a story to tell. Even though you are not developing an animation in this course, you are developing a character that will go through some sort of story. So the shape and form itself can tell part of that story. All right. We start with, I think her suggestion is quite insightful. You're starting with focus on the facial features. Start with imagine what kind of facial feature it has and expression it has as a starting point. And then you draw loosely and expressively, try to test out the variation of shapes and forms and proportions. All right, to try to understand the character's context and its environment, and so you need to getting as many references as possible, and making plenty notes of that. And so also you need to define what kind of what type archetype of your character is, whether it's a hero or villain, whether it's a caretaker or innocent, whether it's a ruler or sage or trickster. And different type, you need to define different shape. And she always emphasized that episode we just watched, emphasized on shape. Instant read. She always emphasized that. You just instantly read the character's type by its shape itself. And then you get into a little bit facial expression, a little bit body gesture. And in animation, you also you have to pose it that represents its iconic sort of movements, actions, and of course choose of the color, choose of portion, and you need to also context and contrast. So within the story, what's in compare with other characters and in compare against its environmental or historical and social background as well. So that's the meat of her talk in that lecture. I think it's quite good, quite insightful. And the other one I want you watch is this one. It's the online course, which is 20 online talk about good or bad design. It gives you lots of examples, and which I think is good. And you can judge by its the presenter's haircuts and dress. He actually lives up the image, and he's very crazy. We have to learn from those crazy about subject, so you definitely know that they're good. So let's just watch that together. Maybe that one.
So what makes a character design good? This design took more time, so it's good, and this is a simple design, so it's bad. Right?
Well, the answer is it's up to you. Character design is a subjective topic, meaning that it varies wildly from person to person or story to story.
Here at BAM, we would argue that good character design is about clarity. Clarity of silhouette, clarity of palette, and clarity of exaggeration.
A character design that's clear in these three principles will be recognizable in any art style.
BAM is the show where professional animation artists redraw the art that you send in. And if you like supporting that sort of thing, check out our Patreon linked below.
Let's start this off by creating an inherently bad character design. We'll begin with a messy silhouette, a confusing palette, and a bland generic everything else.
Wow, that stinks. Let's go ahead and completely cover this design in detail. That'll make it a nightmare to redraw again. And can you imagine those overseas animators actually trying to animate this?
Let's make sure all of these shapes have tangents too. No sense of 3D space whatsoever. And as a final touch, I'm never going to flip the canvas while I draw, so everything will lean awkwardly to one side. Perfect. All of these conflicting elements will confuse the viewer. They'll get caught up in this visual traffic and the story will disappear completely.
Good character design should be a seamless vehicle that drives the story forward, and everything about that character should be understood visually in 1 second or less.
Let's explore these three fundamentals and see if we can use them to create clear, readable characters that aid the story instead of hinder it.
When you strip down your character to just black, the rule is your character must be recognizable from that alone. There isn't a single famous character that doesn't follow this rule.
This submitted artwork is looking really good, but we can improve the design simply by examining the silhouette and separating some of these shapes.
Now that the shapes are clear in silhouette, they'll definitely be clear in full color.
All of the most iconic character designs have a silhouette that's made of big identifiable shapes. Big shapes are going to visually communicate the personality of the character using something called shape language.
Like, this is already giving you a sense of stability, trust, and stubbornness. And this shape here, friendly, bouncy, soft, welcoming, warm, and happy. And this shape has the sharpest corners of the three, implying things like edginess, danger, intensity, and speed. Even though this is a nice drawing, this artwork has a lot of conflicting shape ideas.
We can improve this design by making some of these shapes bigger and committing to the shape motif of a triangle.
When we choose a shape motif, it reduces clutter and emphasizes the things we want to emphasize.
I'm going to try and make every shape some type of triangle.
By committing to an angular shape language, this character will read immediately as a dangerous femme fatale.
You might think that big identifiable shapes can only work in cartoony art styles, but you'd be surprised how many more realistic art styles follow the same rule. Usually it occurs in the form of big clothing, hair, or weapons.
Another way to improve silhouette clarity is to take the character's head and add a little weird shape that is unique to only them.
This is a really useful design hack that helps identify them in a crowd and demonstrates the direction that they're facing.
Every character design works better if you can recognize them from just the silhouette.
Hands look bad? Improve the silhouette. Pose is whack? Improve the silhouette. Before you clean up your character, reduce it to just black and double check which shapes you can push to make it more iconic.
For clarity of palette, don't use too many colors. Be selective.
Choose a color hierarchy, meaning one color is the dominant one and the other colors should support it without competing. This fan-submitted artwork has a lot of competing colors. This blue and this turquoise are both cool colors. Without line art, how can I tell where the ear ends and the dress begins?
If we were to turn the dress into a warmer color, it becomes the dominant color that complements the blue instead of competing with it.
But wait, color is more complicated than that. What about value?
On a new layer, fill the entire canvas white and set the layer style to color. This way you can toggle the layer on and off to double check its value, which is basically the brightness of any given color.
Now we can see what the real issue is. This design is unclear because all the values are very similar. Let's select some of these shapes and hit Ctrl U to adjust the value of them.
An even more precise tool would be the color balance menu under Command B. This allows you to adjust the color on a more fine-tuned level.
If you have a background, check the colors against the environment. Don't just paint your characters on white. Characters rarely stand in a bright white room. If you don't have a background, do your design against a midtone. That way your lights and darks will actually stand off. In the original artwork, many of the values compete, and the character doesn't really stand off the background. By making the values of the objects in the distance lighter, we can establish atmospheric perspective. This will create more contrast between the foreground and the background. A value structure like this will make the foreground read clearer.
Character palette is similar to silhouette in that a well-designed palette is totally recognizable from rectangular swatches alone. The combination of a good silhouette and a good palette equals an extremely recognizable character.
The choices of your color palette are important as well. Certain colors evoke certain moods. The color language is telling us a lot about these characters. For example, we associate yellow with joy and happiness. Green is going to give you a feeling of safety, while red might feel dangerous and sexy. However, color language is not as clear as shape language. Yellow might give you a really happy feeling, like sunshine, or a really sick and diseased feeling, like jaundice.
If you take a look at the globe, countries closer to the equator are going to have more colorful clothing and artwork, while countries closer to the poles will have more muted clothing and artwork. Color can act as a signifier of the environment that the character comes from. In other words, color tells a story. But how can I make that story more meaningful?
This is the hardest to explain, but it is the most powerful step of the character design process.
In a nutshell, your job as an artist is to interpret reality through the lens of being human. You're a human, and you make art for other humans. Therefore, you should aim to create something that connects emotionally to the viewer's core human instincts. The artist has the ability to strip down detail, push the proportions, and bump up the color to connect the viewer directly with the feeling that a character gives you. Which of these do you connect with more? One is more realistic, but which one's emotion reads clearer? Designing characters with simple, easy-to-read features will allow us to see that character's emotion more easily. We have empathy for characters that we can project ourselves onto and put ourselves into their shoes.
Scott McCloud calls this the masking effect.
A good character designer is a world-class observer. They pay attention to how a real person or animal makes them feel and focus in on the specific characteristics that amplify that feeling. And because an artist controls 100% of the screen space, every detail will strengthen the feeling that they want you to read. Which means animation can be more powerful than live action.
Pose is a form of exaggeration. Is your character feminine or masculine? Extroverted or introverted? Lazy or focused? A standard human body is capable of telling the story with pose alone.
When you design a character, don't just use the normal proportioned textbook anatomy for everybody.
Oh yeah, anime and comics do that all the time.
This design approach doesn't use the full range of possibilities that the medium of animation allows. There are so many different body types in the world. Take a look at this weightlifter versus this basketball player. Humans have the same core structure, but vary wildly from individual to individual. What kind of utility does their body have? A body is a reflection of the mind within, so observe, reflect, exaggerate that utility using shapes and pose. Let's exaggerate this submitted design by Joel.
We like this drawing because there's clearly a goofy interaction here. We just think the actual designs are a bit generic, and we want to keep the same poses and same art style, but exaggerate the body types to amplify the story more.
First of all, Joel, watch out for these tangents here. They flatten the drawing a lot. It's hard to tell that the demon is behind him. Now we're going to push the contrast more between these two characters. We're going to make this guy super thin, poised, and intelligent, and this guy's super big, intimidating, and stupid. The contrast is going to aid the joke in the interaction.
Nice.
Characters' bodies are generally made of 3 major shapes, and the scale difference between those shapes is what makes the character design appealing or not appealing. Notice the more dynamic spacing is more appealing. If your character design is starting to feel bland, draw these lines on your character, group them in a more dynamic way, and redraw it. These are like appeal rulers that you can always use to double check your design. Let's take a look at some of these designs submitted by Ege from Turkey.
We really like a lot of what's going on here. The designs are simple and the artist actually designed on a lineup. Drawing on separate documents over a white void can lead to a lot of proportion issues when the characters are finally lined up together. When you design on the same document within a lineup, it allows you to compare the proportions and be more precise.
A great exercise when designing in a lineup is to create character trios. Using all the lessons we've learned so far, we can create a trio of characters that are drastically different from one another in silhouette, palette, shape motif, body variety, and pose. So the challenge is, even with all these differences, can they exist in the same universe? Lineups with good variety will feel like a roller coaster. Bad lineups will be a boring train track. So what's the best way to exaggerate your characters more effectively? Gather reference. And that doesn't mean just browsing through Pinterest. It means all of this. Clarity of exaggeration comes from your understanding of story. Having good reference is going to help you explore every possible idea to find the best possible way to aid the story. So it's always worth your time. The best storytellers are the ones who actually have a story to tell. What really makes a good character design? I've been working for years in the animation industry, and my honest answer is, I have no idea. What I can gather is that designs with clear silhouettes and recognizable palettes and some kind of exaggeration tend to last for a long time in our human zeitgeist. And the final ingredient to every design is story. What you're really doing is creating an actor. Professionally speaking, spending time trying to find your own unique drawing style isn't as good a goal as spending time learning to draw in different styles. Professional character designers change their art style constantly to best emphasize the meaning behind every project that they're working on. Shows like South Park would be bad if you delivered the same jokes and the same story in an overly rendered style. The show's writing is crude and silly, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, and the style reflects that perfectly. You might not like that style, but it's an example of extremely successful design. And vice versa, a story like Grave of the Fireflies could not be told in a style like South Park's. Personally, I think the best design is like a Beatles song. It's a very simple melody, but the unique execution is what makes it shine. The song Blackbird is an exact amount of melody, harmony, and guitar. And the moment you add anything else, the song is ruined. The real trick to character design is to go with a simple idea, executed well. Simple designs encourage the animators to have fun. You don't want to bog them down with a bunch of patterns and pockets.
Now, before you go, check out our friend's YouTube channel. Jupus is a freelance illustrator with a fantastic video that explores the fundamentals of character design in great depth.
There's another example of this, I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. It's called, Who's That Pokemon? Every Pokemon has a unique silhouette, and you can pretty much tell who the Pokemon is just by its silhouette, with the exception of, like, 2.
And Animation is the best animation history channel on YouTube. Such quality writing and production value.
Action in Western animation of the 1990s and 2000s was dominated by a realistic style, fluid motions that fed toward a character's final stance. Posing was considered, of course, but the action was very slow, almost brutish. With Gendy, his spacing of the motion is far more concise. The posing is highlighted as keyframes, and then the in-betweens are sped up so our eyes register a longer held pose.
And his Irish accent is like listening to butter.
And thanks for watching. Now, technically, this is the end of the original 12 videos that we plan to do on this channel. So
I think that's enough. And I want to go back to, yeah. So as you can see, this video is quite comprehensive and the touches upon a lot of the aspects and give you lots of tips as well about the whole process and coming up with good character design. Although they are more emphasis on the actual drawing, or that emphasize quite a bit more on actual drawing and the design process. I just trying to summarize a little bit, and it's actually similar to the Mary's one. Clarity, which in Mary's term is instant read, also emphasized on silhouette, and then color palette, and then exaggeration. How do you interpret the character through the shapes and forms? And to the silhouette, it's get more details. It must be recognizable from that alone, just like Mary's instant read. And it emphasizes on shape language. So I'd making a big identifiable shape that communicates the personality of the character. So usually squares represents stability, trust, and stubbornness, and circle represents a bouncy, soft, welcome, so warm and happy feeling, and triangle has some edginess and danger, and intensity and speed. So you when you design the character, you need to committing to the shape motifs and reduce the clutters and emphasize the characteristics. Even with realistic characters, you have not much leverage. You still can do very good shape motifs by introducing big clothing and hair shape, or unique hair shape, or weaponaries and all that. And take character's head, add a little bit of weird shape that is truly unique to them only, so that it can be instantly recognizable as well. So reduce your character to silhouette and check the shape. You can push it, make it more iconic. All right. And so like one of the principles of animation is staging. Staging, how? It's through the silhouette alone. All right, so like examples, you can instantly read those characters you are familiar with, because they use the shape, use the silhouette quite cleverly, and also the silhouette alone can introduce the action also more clearly. So better silhouette, better design of the silhouette, the better, more instant read, instant clarity of the action and of the character. All right, so, and also palette. I think the rectangular swatch tip, which is quite good, is you can instantly read that swatch, the rectangular swatch, instantly read the color scheme, which one is hair, face, color, or shirt, or trousers. So the more insightful tips are like you have to have a hierarchy of the dominant, supportive, and try to no competition between the colors, and so color harmony, color theory will be employed, and so color language act as a signifier to indicate where the character came from, and color itself can tell the story, can tell the mood, and also suggest and also in the video you can see that your character's color choice against the background color choice, you need to try to reduce the conflict and to try to make it more consistent and matches and contrast as well. All right, so and some of the exaggeration exercises they introduced, which is also you might want to explore as well. So line up your characters in the story and try to apply So they're talking about masking effects to reduce, enrich in the same time, reduce the shapes and forms, reduce its design, and with good poses that exaggerates the personality, and line them up so that you can compare in terms of proportion, color palette, and the shape motifs. So that's the all very insightful tips in that video. So that's pretty much I can talk about this week. And so the tutorial part in this week, I firstly introduced this little cheeky little tutorials come up by kids, I reckon, judged by the voice. And I think his idea is quite clever. He just he also emphasized on starting with the silhouette first. So he actually tried to collect as many as possible from the online available examples, existing character designs, and he tried to play with it. She tried to relish, just reduce them into silhouette and added more or combine them together to try to match us to your own design. And I think it's a clever idea and as a good starting point if you want to starting by that. And also the second one, which is a YouTuber I subscribe to, which is a digital artist. Also do a lot of illustration and character design as well, and Marco Bucci. And I think this 3 video series, a mini series of character design, which I think is quite good as well. And we can just watch a little bit of them. Where is it? Yeah. So like in this one, he also suggests starting with kind of just liberate yourself and took the license, artistic license, try to come up with loosen
to the collection.
loosen drawings, starting with imagine the character type and try to as loose as possible to come up with some good action lines of the character, good pose. And then eventually, once you come up with some interesting poses, choose some of them, try to give them, try to reduce them into a silhouette, and then just blacken them out and try to refine the shapes and forms, try to thinking about the shape motifs and give it more details, right? And adjust the poses, and in terms of it's maybe some extra details, and then thinking about thinking about the typical pose actions in terms of silhouette as well, right? And then you once it's and then try to add it more anatomic features on top of that. All right, he's a very good drawer, so he can apply those features. You can identify the internal sort of anatomic structures visually. As you can see, he are very good at that. And then on top of that, starting thinking about the dress code and the details of the color choice, and at certain particular parts, how do you draw to reflect the underneath anatomic structures. So you have to have an understanding of all those details of human anatomy to actually be able to change your drawing, change your. The same applies when you do actual sculpting process. So that's I think the 3 this week is first one, starting with the silhouettes that were loosened drawings. And the next week, we're going to dedicate 2 weeks in this process of conceiving your concept art and constructing your model sheet of your character. So 2 weeks dedicated to the whole design process. And so the next video of his is actual, as you can see, actual process of thumbnailing into different, value contrast, all of that. That's next week's. and eventually come up with a more detailed full color version of your concept art. Right? So that's that. And yeah. And he also has, I also introduced one of his, because he used Photoshop quite intensively. So he got lots of tips and tricks of how to use how to use Photoshop, and tips try to do the concept art. And so you can use that as reference if you try to use some of the features. And also Wacom tablet is recommended, although not necessarily required. And you can use whatever available to you, iPad or that to do whatever available to you to do the drawing, do the process. And if you are a local doing this course at your local campus lab, you can require to book a webcam. It's available among our regional campuses. Available. The webcam company provide us with lots of devices, webcam devices for you to borrow to use in your process. All right. So maybe the best way to show you the result is the previous students' works. It's available in the course website, on the course website. I compiled a video on the course website, first page, and you can watch the previous students' works. Maybe we'll watch it together. All right, so what do you think?
Very cool. It was really cool seeing all the different styles, and kind of like levels and like degrees of like experience because I was like really intimidated with the first few that you showed, and I was like, oh no, but now it's like, yeah, no, there's still like that level of
don't be
intimidation.
intimidated. Take that as a challenge. There's just I think in the end when at the beginning of previous runs, students also not that confident, but that in the end that they feel quite awarded, and it's you can do it. They can do it. You can do it. All right. I hope I have high expectation from my students each term. I just want to see more good works and inspiring works. All right. And any questions?
I guess just confirming we can do like not human, just humanoid characters. That's okay to do.
Yeah. Not
Okay,
necessarily it has to be a human, but uh, you can. But it has to have some sort of human quality of that. And also, as I said at the beginning of the lecture, I want to have the details of maybe facial features and with limbs and bodies, all that. And not
gotcha.
necessarily mechanical. Some students do submit something like just a collage of geometrical shapes. That's not quite acceptable. I want to see more concrete, detailed, substructured shapes and forms and colors and all the necessary humanoid features. Right?
Gotcha. Cool.
And also, I should. One thing I want to forget. Just want to share the screen again. So I'm not so sure whether you can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, but we're in the AI age, right? And it's inevitable. Some of the students feel that they don't feel confident about using their own hand drawings or that they feel they lack of maybe artistic things. That's fine. That's totally fine. We're in the AI era, so you can use AI to do your design as well. That's the previous students using Midjourney to come up with their ideas. And so if you choose to do that way, that's totally fine, acceptable. But you have to provide me with the thinking process, the thought process of that, what kind of character, just like those prompts you have to provide me. Somewhere. All right. So you have to provide me with the in your written components, provide me with your prompts and examples of those graphics, and to show me the thinking process, the design process, design concern. And in the end, if you relied on the AI can generate it model sheet for you, if you relied on that to prototype your character, that's fine. That's totally acceptable as long as you provide all the details of the process. And I personally have tried some of the prompt like this, even though nowadays ChatGPT can do or Copilot can do can do images, create images. So you create a prompt such as this. You specified to AI that what type of character you want to create. Or you need to specify if it's swimming level is a full body or not. Usually full body, a model sheet, and what's the gender of that character, what's the age. That's a good starting point for you to conceptualize to visualize your conceptualize your characters, and you providing with some descriptive keywords: protectors, innocent, strong, caring, brave, what type of which is the main character, is a hero type character, what's the color scheme, you want earthy, beige, or greens, and pose is standing T pose, usually to have it's for rigging purpose. T pose is the preferable pose, or A pose, which is the hand is on the side. So you describe the viewing angle, which is front, side, back view. So that's actually the ChatGPT provide me with, which is pretty precise, pretty good. And so I can further ask the ChatGPT to construct a iconic pose full concept art, which is this one. I asked him to have in a fighting pose, and what kind of maybe some accessories on top of that. And I think have some of the AI generated posts and to generate the concept art that give you some examples. So you can generate back, front poses like that, and fully post character. That's another version of that. That's Copilot one. It's the same prompt. Different AI can give you different sort of. So like I want to generate a zombie character in a T pose, but sometimes it's unpredictable. So like on the side view, ask it have a T pose, and the AI doesn't understand, and give you some weird pose like this. All right, so I think you can totally use AI to conceptualize as well, and as a starting point, if you are not so confident about your own drawing skills. But in judged by the previous runs, I think a lot of them still prefer using their own hands, their own drawings to come up with their concept art and the model sheet. So it's up to you. It's your choice. But it's good to see it available for you. It's a quick prototyping tool, so you can use AI as a quick prototyping tools to help you to build up your design. All right.
I guess that's still like really, I don't know, that's all still so new, and I don't know, it feels wrong. Like but
Not
I know,
necessarily. Not
yeah,
necessarily.
I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of people who use it for, like you said, conceptualizing like ideas and stuff. I in my D&D group, one of our DMs uses it for like helping with like, NPCs essentially that we run into and characters in that regard. But I've always been like, I don't know if I want to use it. But you're saying we can use it like to like work out our ideas that we may already have, and then like we still need to create those the concept and model sheets ourselves, but
Yeah.
using it as sort of like a way to build
Inspiration.
upon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, inspiration. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I will, but
We
maybe, I don't know.
yeah, in this course we take a traditional way of going through all the process. After that, I think you have the artistic license to use AI to help you to build more. All right, but yeah, for learning purpose, yeah, do it hard way.
Yeah.
We are choosing the traditional way, hard way. But still, in the future, we are all under threat of
Yeah.
AI. We're all
Yeah,
under,
yeah.
but so I think the future 3D artists, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
The better, the earlier, the better you use AI to help you with your design, the better, I think. All right. So don't 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 feel repelled by it. Embrace it. Embrace it. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I encourage you to do. That it's not necessarily feel guilty of that. It's actually inevitable, actually.
Yeah. This last term is kind of like the first term that I've had like instructors actively being like, here's like the ethical usage of it, and here's how to use it as more of a like a tool and a resource more than, having it, just like do the thing for you, which obviously is not okay. But like, it's still it still feels like such a gray area.
Yeah, in my opinion, for us, it's pretty okay because it's still you need to do going through all those very tedious process of flash it out into 3D, right? So
Yeah.
there's plenty room for you to contribute, and not necessarily at this stage. Well, have to stick to the old dogma of all come up from scratch from my own drawing or that. It's not. It's don't put up that burden. It's more robust.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry.
No worries. Anyone else want to have a question on that? No.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
No worries. All right. So I encourage you, starting from now, try to do using AI or not. You come up with some good shape, and maybe starting from silhouette as well, and then thinking about the character type, and thinking about the shape language, shape motive, and then thinking about visualize that, and share your result on the course forum on Moodle. This discussion, the discussion forum on Moodle. In previous runs, a lot of students put up their concept art and model sheet on that, so that your peers can see it, give you a suggestion, give you feedback. I can see it, I give you suggestion, feedbacks, and maybe foreseeing some issues and problems of that. So we have 2 weeks to do that. By the end of this week, so this Monday, by the end of this week, I'm expecting to see your design, your first draft of your drawings or concept art, and so that we can start from there to give you more suggestion on that. Yeah, no worries, Emily. Yeah, if you have to go. Yeah. See you next time. Yeah, don't be timid, and share your any of your result, any drawings, any drafts, and on the course forum, so that I can give you feedbacks, and you get and the peers give you feedbacks as well. All right.
Awesome. Thanks very much. See you next week.
See you next week. Thank you. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Are we all done for today then? And
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. See you
No worries.
next week.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, Chloe.